In the heart of what is now New York State, long before colonists crossed the ocean, long before borders were drawn and empires declared, a council fire burned. It was not just a literal fire, but a symbol of unity, peace, and law. This fire belonged to the Onondaga Nation, one of the original 5 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. But the Onondaga were more than just a member of a powerful alliance. They were its keepers, the spiritual center, the guardians of the great law of peace. Today, we journey into a story that predates the Constitution, that influenced the very foundations of democracy, and that still burns in the hearts of those who remember. This is the Onondaga Nation. Before the Great Law, there was great chaos. The land we now call the Northeast was once riven by cycles of war, revenge, and blood feuds among the nations. Among the people of the forests, the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca, conflict ruled. No one trusted their neighbors. Chiefs led raids, villages burned. Children grew up in the shadow of vengeance. But among these people, a man emerged, known today as the Peacemaker. He came from the Huron people, traveling across lakes and rivers with a vision of unity. He spoke of a law stronger than vengeance, a law rooted in peace, power, and righteousness. But his words alone were not enough. The Peacemaker sought allies. He found Hiawatha, an Onondaga man known for his wisdom and grief. Hiawatha had suffered deeply, his daughters lost in the violence, and his heart was ready for peace. Together, they journeyed from nation to nation, convincing them to join under a single united council. But one obstacle remained, the most powerful war chief of all, who ruled from the center of the land, the Onondaga territory. His name was Tadodaho. Tadodaho was feared. Some said he could kill with a glance. Others claimed snakes writhed in his hair. He rejected the Peacemaker's vision of peace. But the Peacemaker did not give up. With Hiawatha and the support of the other nations, he approached Tadodaho with patience and ritual. They combed the snakes from his hair. They soothed his tortured mind. They offered him a place not just of submission, but of honor. At last, Tadodaho relented. He became the final signatory to the great law of peace, and as a symbol of his transformation, he was made the firekeeper of the new Confederacy, the one who would preside over its Grand Council. And so it was that the Onondaga, once feared, became the spiritual heart of the Haudenosaunee. They held the wampum belts, the sacred records of law and history. They lit the central fire where council met, and Tadodaho's successors would forever be the spiritual anchors of the Confederacy. The great law of peace was not written on paper. It was woven into memory, carried by wampum belts, spoken by elders, and embodied in ceremony. It established a system of representative government. Each nation had its own chiefs, chosen by clan mothers. These chiefs sat in a grand council. Decisions were made by consensus, not majority rule. The Onondaga sat in the center. They listened, deliberated, and when all voices had been heard, they rendered decisions. The law promoted peace, equality, and respect for nature. It honored women as life-givers and leaders. It valued deliberation over force, and for centuries, it worked. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy endured, unified by this law, longer than most empires of the Old World. When Europeans arrived, they encountered a society unlike any they had seen. French missionaries were shocked to find native women with political power. English colonists found councils where every voice mattered. The Haudenosaunee confounded their expectations. They were not savages. They were sophisticated diplomats, brilliant orators, fierce defenders of their land. And at the center, always, were the Onondaga. In the 18th century, Benjamin Franklin studied their system. He printed accounts of their council. Some historians argue that the U.S. Constitution was influenced by the Haudenosaunee model of federalism. But with contact came conflict. Land was stolen, treaties were broken, disease spread, and yet the fire remained. The Onondaga never relinquished their role. Though war, removal, and reservation policy sought to silence them, they held on to the wampum belts. They preserved the Great Law. Today, the Onondaga Nation remains a sovereign entity. Their council still meets. Their chiefs are still raised by clan mothers. Their youth still learn the Great Law, not as history, but as living truth. In 2005, the Onondaga Nation filed a land rights action to reclaim stewardship over ancestral lands, not for casinos or profit, but to protect sacred waters and forests. They remind us that sovereignty is not just about borders, it's about responsibility to each other, to the earth, to the ancestors. The story of the Onondaga Nation is the story of endurance, of a people who kept the fire burning through centuries of storm. They are not relics of the past. They are guardians of a law the world still desperately needs. In a world driven by division, the Onondaga offer a vision of unity without conquest, of power rooted in peace. The Great Law still lives, and its fire still burns. If this story moved you, remember to like, subscribe, and share. And join us next time as we uncover more truths left out of history books.